Let us begin with the steady fall of rain. Gabriel York stands beneath a black umbrella. People pass by him, back and forth, back and forth. Like Gabriel, they carry umbrellas and wear raincoats. Their heads are bent against the relentless weather and against their relentless lives. Back and forth, until in unison they stop. And Gabriel opens his mouth and screams. And a woman falls to her knees in the street, and a fish falls from the sky and lands on Gabriel's feet. Gabriel York's room, Alice Springs, year 2039. Gabriel York stands, holding the fish. I do not believe in God. I do not believe in miracles. I can't explain this. It began with a phone call. It was Friday evening about 10 p.m., which was unusual. The phone rarely rings and never at this hour. I was reading, as I do every night before bed. A history. The decline and fall of the American Empire, 1975 to 2016. I'm actually quite fascinated by the past, which may, at least in part, explain the fish. I've not seen a fish like this for many years. Not since I was a boy. I mean, I have seen pictures of them, but not one in the flesh. They are, after all, or at least, they are meant to be extinct. Though I have heard rumors that they are still occasionally caught and served secretly in the most exclusive of restaurants, but only for the select few and only for those who can pay. If I was to purchase such a fish, if purchasing such a fish as this was still possible for the man in the street, it would cost me a year's wages. I could never dream of affording such a delicacy, if such a delicacy still existed. Which, strangely, it seems to do. I hesitated before answering the phone. Wrong number, I thought. Surely. Who would call me? Me! At this hour? It was my son, Andrew. The name was his mother's choice. I had wanted to call him Joe, after a man I once knew. He was my stepfather. He was a good man. He told me he only swore once in his life, and that was the day he met my mother. And he was always losing his hat. He liked to walk, and one day he went for a walk and never came back, and it was probably better that it was Andrew and not Joe. I haven't seen Andrew for years. I haven't seen him for many years. I left when he was a boy. It was cowardly of me, I know. But I was not the fathering type, and to be perfectly honest, I thought the boy had a better chance without me. I sent money, of course, when I could, and a card, now and then, for the first few years. I'm not proud of it. Anyway, there he was, this Andrew, this son of mine, on the phone at 10 p.m. on a Friday night. Hello? Is this Gabriel York? It's Andrew here. Your son. I hope you don't mind me calling you like this. I really hope you don't mind. It's just that I'm in Alice, and I was wondering if I could see you. Dad? Only, it went more like, hello? Is this Gabriel York? It's Andrew here, your son. I hope you don't mind me calling you like this. I hope you don't mind. It's just that I'm in Alice, and I was wondering if I could see you, Dad. And my mind was racing, trying to stay calm, trying to take each piece of information in, and just as I came to terms with one extraordinary fact such as, it's Andrew, he would say something else like, your son, until I felt unable to reply, and the longer I said nothing, the harder it became to say anything at all, and so I hung up and returned to my book, the decline and the fall of the... I can't imagine what he thought of me. I tried to concentrate on the page I was reading, but found myself rereading the same line over and over again, its meaning escaping me, when I tasted something salty in the corner of my mouth, and I realized that I was crying. The tears were falling from my eyes, rolling across my cheeks and gathering in the corners of my mouth. And of course, I knew I was crying because of him. Hearing his voice, the voice of an adult, now when I could only remember the child, but it also felt like I was crying for so much more. So I lifted the receiver and recalled the last number. Andrew? And he didn't say anything, and I knew that he was crying too. And I wondered whether his tears tasted as bitter as mine. And I hoped not. I'm so sorry, I said. I'd like to see you very much. Why don't you come on over for lunch tomorrow? And as soon as I had given him my address and hung up, I knew that it was a terrible mistake. Lunch? What the hell was I thinking? What would I give him? I can hardly feed myself, let alone a son I haven't seen for 20 years? What do you serve for lunch in circumstances like this? I mean, lunch hardly seems the point. And besides, what will he think of me? I mean, what will he think of the clothes I wear? My suit? Which looks alright from a distance, but up close it's quite shabby and old-fashioned. Second-hand, or third, perhaps. But certainly not purchased new. And my shoes, worn at the toes and down at the heel. And will he notice that I don't wear socks? Not if I don't sit down or cross my legs. If I remain standing, my son won't know that I don't wear socks. And what will he think of my room? It isn't much. It isn't anything at all. A one-room bedsit on the 12th floor. Not the kind of place a father should live, surely. And it needs a paint, and the carpets are worn, and it's dirty. To be perfectly honest, it's filthy. In the corners and on the windowsills and on the ceilings, layers of dust and dirt and grime and dead insects, years of neglect. And will he notice the smell? Of a man who lives alone? I mean, I wash. Of course I wash. But not often. There hasn't been the need. Until now. And so I begin to clean it. The room that night. A bucket of hot water and soap suds. I washed the walls, the ceilings, even the light fittings were scrubbed. I washed the door handles and the light switches in the dark corners behind the furniture. I scrubbed the table and the floor and polished the windows. I dusted the books and the lampshade and even took to the grouting between the tiles with a toothbrush. And by morning, when I had finally finished, I looked around, and it looked exactly the same. So I found an old tin of leftover paint in the cupboard. White, or off-white. Pure white being too stark, like a hospital. And I pulled the furniture to the center of the room and covered it with sheets. I took the pictures off the walls, I took the books from the bookcases, and I painted, and I painted, and I painted. And when I finished, I looked around, and it looked exactly the same. Only whiter. And I began to feel angry. Why did he call? Why is he doing this? What does he want from me? Money? Is that it? Does he think I am worth something? Does he think I owe him something? And as how shameful it was to have these thoughts, how shameful I am, how appalling I am. What kind of man am I? And then I realized that it was Saturday. He would be here in an hour, and there was nothing to eat. I wanted it to be special. I wanted to feed my son something substantial. Something nourishing. Something to make up for all those meals I failed to provide. And there was nothing in the cupboard. So I went out, and it was raining, pouring, like it has been for days. Still is. The river is swollen and threatening to break its banks. 2 of the bridges have already been closed, and I didn't know whether I would make the shops or even what I would buy if I got there. And it was too much. I just couldn't manage it. I couldn't look after him then, and I still can't. I just can't. And I screamed. I just screamed. I opened my mouth and screamed. And then a fish fell out of the sky and landed at my feet. And it still smelt of the sea. I don't believe in God. I don't believe in miracles. I cannot begin to explain how a fish can fall from the sky in a town surrounded by desert. I cannot begin to explain this, but now all that is left for me to do is to put the fish in the oven and wait for the knock on the door. I know why he's coming. My son. I know what he wants. He wants what all young men want from their fathers. He wants to know who he is. Where he comes from. Where he belongs. And for the life of me, I don't know what I will tell him. For which I know a great deal about the decline and the fall of the American Empire, 1975 to 2016. My own past escapes me. All I have are a few fragments, a few bits and pieces I found in a suitcase after my mother's death. I don't know what they mean. I don't know how to make sense of them. I stopped trying 2 years ago. The past is a mystery. And yet, perhaps it will be easier to explain than the fish.
Tenacious Time Podcast. It's Tenacious Time Podcast. Oh, grab your friends if you have any and come and have a great time with your host, Ricky Tenacious.
Hello, hi, how are you? And welcome to another episode of the Tenacious Time Podcast. I'm your hostess with the mostest, the current reigning, defending, youngest ever, and soon to be longest reigning and defending Big Valley Wrestling fighting champion, Ricky Tenacious. It is time to get tenacious here on the podcast. So what you guys just heard, which you're probably all wondering what that was, and also why there wasn't some gag at the end of it, because recently at the beginning of my shows I have these long excerpts of monologue, or dialogue, I should say, that I recite, and then usually at the end of it, my guest or someone will say something obscure, like with Blue Richard, she said that's gay, and I believe Owen Travers, he asked me what the fuck am I talking about, all good stuff. But whether you like it or not, I decided to switch things up just a little bit, and not only do a monologue, but be serious about it and also add some theatrics to it, which is why you heard that rain. And speaking of the rain, what you heard was the opening monologue from a play called When the Rain Stops Falling, written by Andrew Bowell. When the Rain Stops Falling is actually a play that I studied earlier this year in my play scripture and analysis class that I take at CSN because I am a theater major. Quite honestly, when I first got into it, it was very confusing. It's a very confusing play, especially if you read it, because basically every character is named Gabriel, both man and woman. Just to give you a little summary, the play focuses on the couple of Gabriel and Gabriel, a boy and a girl who meet, and then you also, throughout the play, you see their future of them living together separately, and also kind of the people that are related in their life, such as the father and the mother, and etc. and etc. And the whole play is just really about how some people cannot get away from their past, and some people cannot escape their demons, and their demons end up getting the best of them. So the monologue that I performed, that is from the character Gabriel York, who plays the father of the main character. And of course, he's talking about his strained relationship for him. And if you were to watch the play, then you would find out that things don't work out too well in that relationship endeavor. Excuse me. Sorry. So yeah, anyway, let me get down to the nitty-gritty here. I got to watch this play, actually, last week. My theater teacher, the lovely Miss Jane Walsh, she was performing in this play, which is happening, I believe it's still playing at a place called Public Us, which is a theater company / cafe. It is on the corner of Fremont and Maryland. I'm pretty sure if you just take Fremont all the way up, you cannot miss it. It's on the corner of Maryland Parkway and Fremont, as it just said. Relatively new building, or at least I think. It's the first time I've ever heard of it, honestly. And there they are doing when the rain stops falling. Luckily, my teacher, who was in it, she got her students half-price tickets. And so me and a fellow classmate went to see this play, and we were absolutely blown away by it. There were some parts where I almost felt like crying. So I know some of the audience members cried. Our fellow classmates were there as well, and I'm pretty sure they cried a little bit. But I know for sure, if there's anything that everyone in that audience had in common, it's that I'd say about a good 30 minutes into the play, everyone was synced into this play. There were no intermissions. There were no bathroom breaks. Once the play started, you were not allowed to get up. You were not allowed to exhibit any interruptions of any kind. It was just 2 hours of this, what I would interpret as a trip almost, because I'm sitting there, and the way they have it set up is very interesting instead of Public Us. I'm going to go ahead and just start from the beginning of the story and kind of let you all imagine. So me and my good friend Vincent and his friend John, we drive over to Public Us. We get there, and we park in the back, and there are girls there who are selling the tickets for the show. So we buy our tickets, and then we go down this hall / alleyway, because that's pretty much what it was like. They had this back entrance. It's this hallway, kind of almost similar to one inside of an arena, I should say. Like, you ever see those movies of like bands walking through the halls before they go on stage? It kind of looked like that. And they had doors on each side of this hallway, one of which would be the entrance to the stage. And then on top of this hallway, there were these Christmas lights that hung. And it just presented this really interesting aesthetic to what was about a 15-second walk all the way down. The last door on the left leads inside the cafe of Public Us, a very nice cafe, I must say. They had really nice shelves. The counter and kitchen looked very clean. They have coffee. They have really good food. They had desserts of all kinds. Very good staff. Definitely a hot spot for hipsters, I would say. I could definitely see any hipster not only working there, which were there were a few, but also just hanging out there and enjoying themselves and enjoying the art. And then also one of the really cool parts was their bathroom. They have a gender neutral bathroom, so there's no like woman's bathroom or guy bathroom. It's just a toilet in each of them with a mirror. It's like this really nice mahogany wood, and it's not like a door with a knob. It's a slide open door, kind of like for a closet, and that was really interesting. That was really really cool. And then as far as the food goes, the food was really good. We got mac and cheese and these awesome macaroons they were selling. It was just a mackin' kind of day. Uh, Man, the mac and cheese was so good. It was so cheesy. It was so rich in flavor. Great seasoning, great flavor. It was so good. We all had the same thing, and then we also had macaroons that just melted in our mouths, and it was just the start of a great night. So we enter the stage area, we could say, and it's this low ceiling warehouse like atmosphere, and there's one set of bleachers, and it only sits about 50 people, I would say. I know it sounds really small, but that's what she said. Um, yeah, so I know seating sounds really small, but this is why. This is a very close up, in your face uh, uh, audience involved. The thing is that there's not really any physical audience interaction with this. Like, I'm not saying the actors pulled them out of their seats and have them be part of the show, but the way they performed it made us feel like our entire bodies were kind of just what were keeping us, honestly, at the edge of our seats. And our eyes and our ears and our nose, head, shoulders, knees, and toes, all that good stuff, all of our senses were submitting to the art presented in front of us. And this play was honestly taking all of our senses and controlling them and getting their attention. And I almost want to say robbing us of that attention and just focusing it all on what was going on. That's how intriguing this play was. That's how intriguing this masterpiece really was. It was awesome. It was so great. So yeah, we sit there, and the entire set just takes place in what looks like an apartment room. There's like some furniture, like some tables and some chairs, a coat rack, and then there's these two pillars on the left and right side in front of the stage. And then in back of that, there's these strings that hang that are like connected to the floor as well. And that was kind of used to reflect the lighting, which made for some interesting theatrical uses. And then behind that, actually in the middle of it, was this long walkway, like this really long walkway that the characters, you could see them from where we're sitting. You could see them all the way into the back when the walkway starts and they walk into the scene. And so when this play started, all of the characters are in raincoats, as stated in the precursor to the monologue that I recited. And I remember when the play started, I could see one of the characters in a raincoat all the way in the back of this walkway, and it freaked me the fuck out. I like grabbed on to my friend Vincent, who was there with me, and I'm like, dude, do you fucking see that bullshit? And he goes, oh shit, yeah, I do. That's freaky as fuck. And so it kind of just made me think, man, what if we were like high as hell for this? What if like we were high on like some hallucinogens or something? This would be crazy. But you didn't really need it, because this whole play kind of made you feel like you were on that, because it was just so there. So they had this opening number, and then the guy who played the part of Gabriel York, who recites the monologue that you heard at the beginning of the show, he does it, and he's basically talking to the audience, and he has this really good Australian accent. I was gonna try to do an accent, but I'm not good at it, so I didn't want to try to butcher it. And for 12 minutes of that monologue that it takes for him to recite, he just blew us all away. He really got all of our attention. He had these pauses. He knew it, like, it's almost as if, like, from the point of view of his character in the play, he was unintentionally talking to us. But, like, if let's say in theater you practice all this just so you can perform in front of an empty audience, which is absolutely crazy. I could not imagine a world like that. He recites that, and that's their performance. Like, they do all that practice just to get it, just for this really perfect performance that I guess the only person who gets to watch is the director, I should say. Which, again, sounds really insane, I know. And, just get my point across, like, it's like the audience didn't need to be there. Like, his character, I would feel, because he lives alone, he would just talk to himself all the time. And he's just contemplating his thoughts about meeting his son. Sorry, that was kind of confusing. But anyway, so play goes on. Our teacher did really great. All the actors were really awesome. There was some live music in there. It's such a heartfelt play, and really you don't even have to like theater to watch this play. That's probably one of the biggest beauties of it, that I think anyone can go to this play and enjoy themselves, because this story just sucks you into it, honestly. And you're on the edge of your seat, and it's a great feeling. Terrific performance, very good time. Very glad I was able to go see it. I'm very glad that our teacher was able to get us half price tickets. I would hope that the play is still being performed throughout the week. It was performed at Public Us, again on the corner of Maryland and Fremont. If you're interested, go and check them out on their Facebook page, or maybe if you pass Fremont a lot, go and just stop there and maybe get a bite to eat at the cafe and ask some questions about if the play is still going on. I strongly encourage you guys to go see it. Tickets are only $20. If you want to look up more information, you can Google it, or you can even message me on Facebook at Ricky Tenacious, and I will tell you all about it. Again, it's a story about the chronicle of this relationship between two people that are both named Gabriel, and then from the relationship spawns other effects on people involved in their life, such as their mother and their father, and you also get to see their future and their past and the present. It's a very time-oriented play with this drawn-out timeline that just sucks you in, and you just cannot wait to see what happens. So with that being said, speaking of theater, pretty much today's show is going to be all about theater. Theater is probably one of my favorite things. Obviously, I'm a professional wrestler. Professional wrestling is considered a form of theater, you could say. Only instead of a stage, we use a wrestling ring. And instead of actors, we use wrestlers. Theater has really, I feel like it's always been in my blood, really. And I don't mean to talk so much about myself. I know usually I have a guest on the show. Speaking about my show, I want to apologize really quick for not having a show last week because of some issues with control of the mic. But that's all settled now, and that's fine. I'm here and I'm recording the podcast. So anyway, I wouldn't necessarily say theater has always been in my veins, but performing and entertaining has always been there. Maybe it has to do with how I always made my mom laugh when I was younger, and I always got a big joy out of making her laugh. And I quickly came to realize I make a lot of people laugh. I was kind of the class clown. I just naturally had this quirky, goofy personality that people loved, and it kind of just stuck with me. And I always knew that theater was the perfect place for me, because if I like to make people laugh, if I like to entertain people and just get them away from all the bullshit that's happening in their lives, and have them sit down in a chair for 2 hours and just focus on this performance and lose trying to find the word here, lose awareness of what's going on in their life and get out of reality and focus on theater as their new drug to escape reality and watch this other reality that people are performing for them. So, yeah, theater has given me a lot. I've met pretty much my best friends in the world, such as the infamous Colton, who I always talk about. Me and him met in middle school through theater. He's very much like me. And then, of course, in high school, I met Aaron. I met my good friend Sylvia. I just met a load of great people who all wanted to do the same thing, and that is entertain people. And that's just not only beautiful, but that's tenacious. Um, I've gotten to do a pretty good number of plays, and it doesn't really matter about the play for me. I mean, yeah, it kind of does as far as getting my interest or who it's with, but at the end of the day, it's just all worth it when I go on stage and I get a reaction from that audience, and at the end of it, they go, "Man, you were so funny," or "You just had me believing in your character," or "Man, I just couldn't take my eyes off you," or "Man, you were so exciting, that was great." And the same kind of translates into wrestling too. It really means the world to any wrestler if they go out there and you feel not just entertained by them, which is essentially their job, but inspired by them to be like them, to want to become a wrestler. Like, that's really, if I could go years and years of being a wrestler just because I like it and I love it, and I could never get signed to WWE. But if someone were to come up to me and say, "Hey, listen, I saw you at Big Valley Wrestling when I was 13 years old. I saw your match with Angus McField, and I was absolutely blown away by your character. I think you're fantastic in the ring. I think you're super talented. And honestly, that match was the match that made me want to be a professional wrestler. It was just something about you that made me want to do kind of the same for myself." That right there, that means the world to entertainers alike. No matter if you're a wrestler, an actor, a musician, or whatever it may be. If someone is that inspired by you, then you should feel accomplished. You should feel like you have succeeded in the purpose of your career. I mean, yeah, we all have goals. We all I'd love to be on Broadway one day. I'd love to go to WrestleMania one day. I'd love to have a contract with WWE or ROH or Lucha Underground and actually make money at wrestling and do what I love for a living. That'd be great. But I think an unwritten accomplishment that artists don't really realize is the accomplishment of inspiration. In my opinion, for all artists, there's this thing called the circle of art or the circle of inspiration. I guess we could say that. And that's really just because that's really what starts someone in the career of their choice, and starts another. It's just a continuous circle. Like I just talked about, I started in wrestling. I did it because I saw guys on TV and it captivated me, and it really just made me want to do that. It was a natural thing. Like the first time I watched wrestling, I knew that's what I wanted to do, and now I am doing it. And let's say I'm wrestling and somebody in the audience at a match I'm in sees me and says, it doesn't even have to be directly appointed to me. Maybe just the match that I was in or the character I present or whatever it may be. And they're just like, that match, I'm not sure what it was, but that was the match that made me get off my ass, get some money, put it into training, and start trying to become a professional wrestler and get myself involved in this business. And then they did the same thing for somebody else. And that right there is just beautiful. And that's just all about life imitating art and art imitating life. So enough with that little 2 cents. Nice little thing I just talked about there. Lots of theater have taken place over the past 2 weeks, especially for me, not just with wrestling, but also not just the play I went to when the rain stops falling, but my little sister actually had her first play earlier this week at our high school. She was in the female version of The Odd Couple. They did a 3-night performance, which means they performed for 3 nights. Like, I'm not saying like continuously, like they did a show Wednesday and Thursday and Friday and all that good stuff. I could not imagine a 3-day long performance. That sounds crazy, and now I'm actually kind of interested in trying to do it. But anyway, yeah, it was really cool to see her on stage. She obviously had a lot of fun doing it.
She knows she knows why I love theater so much in high school, because she felt the same way. She loves getting reaction from the audience. She loves performing in front of people. It's a really beautiful thing. It's kind of in my family's genes, honestly. And I'm sure she'll keep doing it. Unfortunately, though, what was kind of sad is I went there. I saw the play twice. I saw it opening night because I went by myself, and I went mainly because I felt like someone in the audience should be there that my sister knows is there to support her. And it's opening night. The more people there, the better. I go there. There's literally only 13 people in that audience. And it was so sad because the actors did wonderful. They knew this. They had the script down, and the whole play went great. It went off without a hitch. But the problem was, because there was only 13 people in this huge theater, barely anybody reacted. And not many people know this, but there is a psychology behind laughter. And it's kind of just like the same thing with yawning. It's contagious. Laughter is contagious. So the more people you get and the more close they are, if one person laughs, there's a good chance that the person next to them are going to laugh as well. Just because they see that and they go, wow, that looks fun. You know what? I think I'm gonna join that and laugh too. And the more you laugh, the more vulnerable you become to laugh even more. And that's honestly the truth, because I went again Thursday night with my family and a few other wrestling buddies of mine there to support her. And there was definitely a lot more people. I'm not sure on an exact number, but I just know it was a lot more people, and that's all that matters. And they all reacted, and they were laughing. And of course, it was kind of the same thing. Everyone laughed. Eventually, it started off with just like a few laughs here and there, and then some people like on one side of the theater found it funny, and then the other side found it funny, and then before you know it, everyone's simultaneously laughing, and it's just a great time, and you knew that the actors had a great time with it. So that was pretty much that. Also, something interesting that happened. There was during a scene change, which is basically where the techies come on set and they switch around some of the props to get ready for the next scene. What would happen is when they do that, the lights would dim on stage, and then the sound man would play music, basically. And he played Eye of the Tiger by Survivor. And I mean, who doesn't know Eye of the Tiger? So this song was playing, and I'm sitting next to my wrestling buddy, and he starts clapping along to Eye of the Tiger. And so I decided to join in. And so then the guy next to me as well, he joins in. And then before you know it, everyone in this theater is clapping along to Eye of the Tiger in the middle of the play during this scene change. And so then, of course, it comes to the chorus where it's like, it's the eye of the tiger is the thrill of the fight. Da, 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 da. So that comes on, and so we all start singing the chorus. Not everyone knew all the words, but it was a crazy thing. And that was the first time ever, from what I understand from the director, because I asked him, he was like, yeah, I've never seen or heard an audience sing a song in the middle of a play. That was absolutely crazy. So that's my sister's play. So on the topic of theater today, as you can guess, this podcast isn't going to go as long as my usual podcast, but I'll try to keep you as entertained as I can. In high school is when I really got into theater. I was doing... how we would do it at the beginning of the year, we would have the one-act plays, which were pretty self-explanatory. It was like 4 one-act plays. We would perform them like on a Wednesday night, and then Thursday and Friday all day long we would perform them in front of our classmates as a part of like a inter-educational performance, usually with English classes and also other classes that wanted to take part. And so it was a really fun thing because we got to get out of class and we got to spend the whole day entertaining people, running our lines, hanging out backstage with all of our friends, some really good memories there. We would just fuck around mostly backstage and go over our lines, and plus by then like we all had the plays down like by second nature, and it was just a really fun time. And every audience just seemed to take the play a little bit differently. Some of them laughed a little less than others, I mean, and some laughed a lot, and some laughed at all the jokes there was. It was really awesome. And then at the end of the year, we would do a musical, or we would do what is the fall production, which usually involves dancing and music and live musical performances plus the play. So like the whole shebang, the whole triple threat. And of course, it involved the culinary department, and so they would serve food to the attendees, and so it was a really cool experience. I did the one-act plays all 4 years, and then the first 2 years I did not do the fall performances because I was involved with amateur wrestling. And then junior year I didn't wrestle because I was injured, and so I was getting surgery, and so around that same time the fall play was coming up, so I decided to audition for it, and I got the part. It was the play Alice in Wonderland. I know, pretty cliche. And I got the part of Tweedledum, and my good friend Aaron got the part of Tweedledee. And at first, when we read through the script in our scene, it just seemed kind of plain and something that we really just have to make the most of. And our director, Ms. Vlamming, came to us as we were practicing and running through lines, and she said, if you guys want, you guys can maybe take this and maybe modernize it more. I'm not saying change the lines, but if you guys want to get experimental with it and try to make it as funny as you can, because you guys are the funny duo, please do that. And so that's exactly what we did. My first thought was music parody. I knew that if we could maybe tie in some song and like change the lyrics up and make it and tie it into our scene, that'd be great. And so there's a scene where we first come on stage, me and Tweedledee and Tweedledum, and we greet Alice. She's in Wonderland, and we say some stuff, blah, blah, blah. And at the time, the song What Does the Fox Say was very popular and had just come out by Elvis. And I got the idea, what if we I think I just kind of was playing around with the song. Like, we were like, what songs could we do? And I just went with the first song that came to my head, and it was What Does the Fox Say? And so I was like, what if we did what does the Alice say? Ding, 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 ding. And Aaron was like, man, that's really cool. I like that a lot. And or he said something like that. I'm not sure exactly how this conversation went, but I'm trying to give you the best memory of this moment. And so I went home and I decided to write a full cover or parody of What Does the Fox Say, changing it to What Does the Alice Say. And I wrote it up, and we went over it, and it seemed pretty good, but it just seemed too long, so we cut it down kind of, and then I revised it, and we ended up just doing one verse plus the chorus, and it was all themed with the play, so it involved some of the characters. So I basically just took the original lyrics and kind of plugged in stuff that made sense at the time with Alice in Wonderland. And Aaron was really blown away by it. Ms. Vlamming was very blown away by it. And once we performed it, everyone was super into it. They were, I think we did it in rehearsal once, and everyone was super into it. They loved it. It was a definite yes. They were like, man, you guys are awesome. You guys have to have this in there. So that was a big sense of pride for me, being I wrote it, and I'm not saying I don't want to take all of the credit, because my co actor Aaron was there too. I couldn't have done it without him. And then we decided to do another parody during intermission of the show. There was going to be that's when they get all their food, and so we wanted to do something, and so we decided, well, we could do another song, and the whole thing was the food was they got their food, and they also got tea, because in Alice in Wonderland, Alice has a tea party with Mad Hatter. And so I go, well, we'll just do take a song and parody it and just make it about a tea party. And at that same time, the song Get Lucky by Daft Punk was popular. And so I took that song and said, what if we change Get Lucky to Tea Party? And so you know how in the song they go, we're up all night to get lucky. What if we just change it to we're up all night to tea party? And so then I was back at it again, and I put together a parody for Get Lucky and call it Tea Party. Again, same thing, same formula with Alice. What does the Alice say? And I know I have the exact lyrics somewhere around here. I know I wrote them down somewhere, but I can't remember all of them verbatim, even though I wrote it. But we perform it, and that went really awesome. We choreographed some stuff with all the other actors on stage, and at the end of the day, we performed it. The audience loved it. We were a very ecstatic duo. Alice in Wonderland was such a memorable experience for me because it was the first time I ever did the big fall production. I honestly feel that brought me and my good friend Aaron closer together. It allowed me to get to know a lot more people better, even some people that I was already really good friends with, like my good friend Sylvia, Madison, and Nancy, and Jose, and Colton, etc., etc., etc. And we just had a lot of fun because we got so much freedom, especially me and Tweedledee, to try to make it as funny as we could, and that's exactly what we did. And every time we'd go out there, it was just so much fun. It was so much fun, as a matter of fact, that the last night we performed, closing night, I had this huge sense of anxiety and fear in me because I was just afraid and sad that this was the last time we're going to be able to do this. I'd honestly give almost anything to either go back in time and relive performing, or to have like a big cast reunion and just sing all the songs and relive times and make jokes about each other and all that good stuff. And that's one of the biggest beauties of being involved in theater. If you're listening to this and you're maybe in high school or middle school even, or you're in college or whatever it may be, or you have an opportunity to be a part of a theater production, whether it be as a tech or as an actor, hopefully, I strongly advise you to at least go and audition to just see what you can do. You'd be surprised, honestly. You can go in there and maybe have no acting experience, and you read a line from a monologue, or you do the whole monologue, or whatever it is you have to do to audition, and the director or whoever's casting is blown away, and maybe you get a really good part, maybe you get a really good supporting role, or maybe you even make the main role, and then you get in there and you start rehearsing, you meet all of these people, and you get to play another character, you get to be someone who you're not, you get to put your own twist on it, insert your own personality in it, and grow it into this awesome figure that you get to live. Every character is like the skin of the spirit of a playwright, I guess you could say. I'm trying to come up with other definitions for this, but there's this character, and you get to put on his clothes. And I believe every actor who, like, for instance, we know Alice in Wonderland is a play done a million times over, because it's one of the most famous plays that everyone is familiar with. It's very popular. It's been made into reprinted into books and adapted into film, as we all know. And so I believe every girl, or maybe even guy, who has played Alice, they have their own different interpretation of it. Not everyone is going to be the same. It's the same character. We all know who Alice is, but you playing them, you get to add something a little bit different. You get to alter the image that an audience member may have, which is very interesting to me. So yeah, I guarantee you're not going to regret it. It might be, their rehearsal might be really tiring, and it could be kind of exhausting, and there would be some days you don't want to do it, but I guarantee you, opening night, you go on stage and you recite your lines, and you put a little bit of extra flair into it, and you hear the audience reaction, and you have the lights on, you see all those people. There's really no greater feeling than that. And it's the same thing with wrestling. when I go through the curtain, like a little bit before, I always get those little butterflies in my stomach because I'm excited to go out there. I can't wait to hear. I don't care if they cheer me or if they boo me. It's still a reaction. That's really all that matters to me. And I go out there and it's a great feeling. And I do my thing and people react to it, and it's great. I love it. I love it so much, and I could see myself doing it for a very long time. Before I get out of here, I want to talk to you about a story that I just remembered. It was senior year, I believe, and I was in a one-act play called Cut, and it's opening night. We're all ready to go, and so we have our dressing room, and then outside of that, there's these double doors which bring you into the room, and then there's this hallway, and then that'll lead you into the opening doors of the theater. And so I'm in this hallway, and I am chilling out, and I'm kind of just running through my lines by myself, going through the motions, thinking about tonight, how awesome it's going to be. And so I rest my head on the double doors, like right in between them. So like where the two doors meet, that's where my head is. And I'm just kind of thinking to myself and relaxing. All of a sudden, I hear my co-star, Sylvia, who is also in Cut, being very excited about this play, verbally excited. And so I hear her, and I'm like, oh, Sylvia, she's excited. And I'm just like, all right. And I hear her say, all right, let's go. And then there's this huge force that I feel go into my head. And that is from her kicking the door open. She literally kicked the door open, not knowing that I was on the other side of it with my head resting right on the door. So she kicks the door open. Boom! Door hits me in the face. I fall to the ground. I am now writhing in pain. I'm holding my head. And she sees me and she is freaking the fuck out. And she cannot believe what she just did. And she's apologizing profusely. And she's like, oh my god, Ricky, I'm so sorry, oh my god. And I'm cussing her out. I'm like, you bitch, God, how could you who the hell just busts open doors like that? And then again, it's like, who just lays their head on the double doors like that? So I get up, and I'm like, you know what, it's fine, I'm a wrestler, okay, I get hit all the time, I'm good, this barely fazed me. And so the director comes over, and he's checking on me, he's like, are you sure you're alright, are you gonna be good? It's like, yeah, I'm fine, man, the show must go on. And then I go to another table, and a girl from another play is looking at me, like kind of confused and almost grossed out, and I could see her facial expressions kind of get worse and worse. And then I was like, what's up? She goes, Ricky, you're bleeding. And I'm like, what? So I touch my head and I rub it, and I come down, I see there's blood on my hands, and I'm like, oh shit. And so I go to the bathroom, and there's a gash on my eyebrow, and it's bleeding, and we're about 30 minutes from showtime, so everyone's panicking, everyone's freaking out. My director doesn't know what to do, and I'm telling him, dude, listen, I'll be fine, just get me a Band-Aid, I'll be okay, I can still do the show. My character will just go up there with a Band-Aid on his forehead. I doubt anyone will fucking care. And really, no one did care. And Ms. Flaming, the overall director of the whole theater department, she was freaking out too, and she wanted to make sure I was okay. So that's just a little silly story about what happened like right before I went on stage. And we ended up totally killing it that night. Totally killing it. People ate everything up about that play. And we were so confident because opening night went so good for Cut. And it's a very confusing play. It's about a play within a play within a play. It's just like directors come out from out of nowhere and they stop the play. And the audience is kind of confused, but it ends up getting really funny and just they have a really good time with it. And there's a lot of different scene changes and an acting with lines. What really helps memorize lines is cues off of your co-stars. So if they say one line, then you hear the end of it and you know, oh, this is the next line, and you recite it. And so the very next day, we performed Cut in front of the school, and somebody forgot a line, and that one line threw everybody off. Literally, it started as a little chain, and like a little bump, and then it turned into an earthquake, and everyone was stumbling over lines. People missed their cues. We skipped over scenes. It was bad. No one laughed. No one was entertained. They were even more confused than they usually would be by the play, and it was bad, and we got a huge our director tore us a new asshole over that one, and we had to rehearse right after that. And the thing was, that year I was the only actor triple casted, which means I was in 3 of the 4 one act plays. I know, I'm pretty great. It was pretty cool. So I had a lot of lines memorized already, and it was just crazy, but it was a great memory. It was a great time, and I would not change it for the world. So in conclusion, that's just a little history about my time with theater and things I've gotten out of it, and I strongly encourage, it doesn't even have to be theater, honestly. I mean, here at the Tenacious Time Podcast, we embrace art. We put the art in Pop-Tart, as we like to say. Whether you're a musician or you're an actor or a dancer or something that involves art, or even fellow wrestlers of mine, or whatever it may be that you want to do, and you're maybe if you want to try something new, like for instance, I tried dancing last semester at CSN. I took a class and I liked it. I really respect the metaphors that people can represent with their bodies and the stories they can tell. I'm usually more used to wrestling as far as storytelling with their body, but dancing is like a whole different thing, and there's so many theatrics in it, and that's why I love it so much, and that's why I would love to be a part of a concert sooner or later. So whatever it may be, if you're trying to if it's something you already do or something you want to try that's new, I encourage you, just do it. Just like Shia LaBeouf, just do it. Because at the end of the day, with all those endless hours of rehearsal and the blood, the sweat, and the tears that you put into it, and all this passion, it will pay off from the applause from the audience. Just like Lady Gaga, you do it for the applause, and that's tenacious. Thank you guys very much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this theatrical style podcast, you could say. I will be back next week with a guest, and I'm pretty sure you're going to want to tune in because it will be someone that I never thought would be on this podcast. Keep up with me on social media to find out just who's that going to be, or just tune in next Monday at 3 p.m. So with that, thank you all very much for joining me. Have a great rest of the week, and stay tenacious, everybody. See you next week.